Hello there, today is my Christmas 3D special. We'll be looking at the film, two Robert Zemeckis films, which is Polar Express and A Christmas Carol. We're looking at Henry Selick's Nightmare Before Christmas, as well as our special panto movie, Jack the Giant Killer. And the Polar Express is based on a book and is about a little kid who's losing the belief in Christmas and who gets an invitation to the Polar Express, which is a train that goes to Santa's grotto in the North Pole. And the movie is basically been on the train into adventures as well as what happens when he reaches Santa's grotto. It's all about belief and what it means to someone and how it's built up or lost. I mean, that's the main theme of the film. Christmas is the background for all of that. Christmas is a very identifiable social structure. So the first half of the movie is a kid on the train, and it's how he interacts with other children on the train who are also going to Santa's grotto. And he meets a black girl and this small poor kid who's obviously comes from a deprived home, and as well as other kids you see, but those are the characters you actually deal with, and basically his interaction with them. Basically he's the person who's losing his belief. The girl is the person who still has belief and still has optimism in life, and the poor kid is the kid that's feeling abused and feels destroyed by the Christmas period and who really needs something to kick himself back to life, really. So those are the three main characters, and you watch them travel through the train as various adventures happen, as they have to go on the roof, they have to stop the train from crashing a few times, and basically into lots of little adventures where they become a unit, where they become friends. And so the first half of the movie is them becoming friends and watching the characters interact. The second half is when they reach the grotto, which is this massive city, and they get separated from the train. Okay, this is the slightly darker section of the story. We have to show their belief as well as become a unit and actually earn their way back to Santa. And you see them go through the small tunnels, through big industrial areas and areas like that. Okay, that's the plot. I mean, the whole film is about the moods though. So the moods are like, the first section is about this suspicious kid learning how to adapt and learning about the train and the rules of the train. The second half is the kid becoming a bit more self-reliant and being as well as developing bonds with people and actually learning how to interact. So he actually is a very positive message for kids. It's a very positive film for kids. And it's very underrated because of that, because people thought it was too dark, and they thought that the way it was shot, which was the animation of actors, they thought that was made the kids too creepy and the eyes were dead. Well, that actually happens when you see a 2D version. When you see a 3D version, that's not the case. You actually, the faces look a lot more naturalistic, the environment's much more naturalistic, and it's basically it's a 3D film. It's not, the 2D film is just a release version. It's not what the film actually is. The film's made to be shown in 3D and it's made to be in widescreen, and the atmosphere informing the story is all about the festive spirit. It's all about the environments, and it's all about how the kids learn from the environments and how they develop with each other. So it's a nice little film. I mean, the 3D elements really pay off because you have these long stretching shots of the train travelling through landscapes. You have the Santa's grotto city is really well developed, so it stretches for miles, and you can see it's a big industrial area which is bizarrely reminiscent of Fritz Lang Metropolis. Smaller, but that feeling of it's a big dark area that could potentially be dangerous, but ultimately it's not. It's just because that's what the kids see as a big dangerous area, but it's actually a very optimistic area when we interact with the residents of it. And it's basically the kids learning to interact and not being selfish and just working for each other, because a big part of the early part of the story is one of the kids loses their ticket and the other kid has to get a ticket to her, and a lot of the adventures him going to the top of the train, going to the other side of the train, the front of the train, help stop crashing the train. It's all based on the idea of he's getting a ticket to this girl who he's developed a bond with. So there's all these things that happen, and it's just really well done how the whole thing is put together. So it's a wonderful little film. I mean, it just never got the respect it deserved when it was released. I think basically because it was too new, it was just too distracting. And I can see why people find it's cold in 2D, but in 3D it's a beautiful little experience, and it's hopefully in the years to come it'll be better thought of, because it's one of Zemeckis' most interesting films. Next up is A Christmas Carol, which is based on the Charles Dickens classic. Again, it's also mo-capped with Jim Carrey playing Scrooge, and it's all about the evolution of Scrooge from a miser to a very kind person through the three ghosts visiting him, and how he changes throughout the over one night on Christmas Eve. It's actually one of my favourite of the Dickens adaptations, because it's probably one of the darker adaptations, because they really don't go towards a redemption till very late in the film, because the first 2/3 are basically a horror story for kids, where you see Scrooge getting scared by ghosts, you see him getting dragged around, getting dragged over skies, through sewers, and being made to pay for his miserliness and his nastiness to people. And it takes a long time for him to actually get the idea of the Christmas spirit and the idea of helping other people. So the whole idea is he has to pay for his sins. And it's beautifully done, actually. I mean, the environments are really well rendered, because they've been really well researched, but they've got a kind of romantic glow to them as well. So it's not entirely realism, but it's like a horror story version of what we think of as Victorian England. And so there's lots of moments where the ghosts scare the hell out of Scrooge. You also see moments in his life where he was a bit happier, when he was a young man, where he dealt with people as a more human character before he became a lover of money, a lover of gold, and lost all link to humanity. And then you see him slowly develop the links to humanity through Tiny Tim, and through his care for what happens to Tiny Tim. This is really well done, because they don't overdo it. It's not like something horribly sentimental the Scrooge story can be. It's because it's actually about him developing a connection with humanity again by this one boy, and then seeing what his life's like for his employee Bob Cratchit, and it's him slowly having that connection. And that's what it's all about, and slowly through that connection he starts to develop feelings for other people again, and develop forgiveness, and see it's his own fault for what's happened. So I mean, it's very subtly done. They don't overstate anything. It's all about the atmosphere, and it's all about little movements in the face and a lot of movements of action that actually create redemption for him. So it's very underrated, because it didn't do that well with critics or even audiences, because I think they expected something more warmer, obviously warmer, and the film was very much into the character Scrooge and staying with him and making it hard for him to get the redemption, which is the thing I liked about it. So it's a very underrated film. Again, Zemeckis' 3 mocap films were all underrated, because he did a lot of the research, a lot of the work, and then James Cameron came out with Avatar, which got all the praise. But for me, these are actually the stronger films. They have some weaknesses, because there is some dead-eye things of the characters sometimes, and probably in Beowulf the most, where the eyes could have been animated a bit better. But generally they work. And also the thing about the mocap idea is the camera can go anywhere, and Zemeckis is great with camera. So he's a camera floating around in a way that doesn't feel gratuitous. It always feels like you're following a character and following a story, so you always feel like, you know, the camera's where it should be. It's just not locked down by technology anymore. So it's a very strong film. If you have kids who like Scrooge, it's definitely worth showing them it, because it's really well done. So that's 2 wonderful Zemeckis Christmas films that are underrated. Next we have A Nightmare Before Christmas. A Nightmare Before Christmas is a film that Tim Burton wrote and produced, and Henry Selick directed it. It's basically based on the idea that the King of Halloween takes over Christmas. So it can either be seen as a Halloween film, which I see it as, or a Christmas film, which other people see it as. But it doesn't really matter, because you can watch it in both seasons. I watched it at Halloween this year, and I can easily watch it at Christmas, because it covers both sides. It's really, it's a basic film you can watch twice in a year. Because it's just well done. It's like it's a musical. It's a gothic romance, because you've got a romance between the lead character Jack Skellington and this Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein creature that's been made up, and she's in love with the Skeleton King, Jack Skellington. So there's that element, but it's also created this gothic world. It's very Tim Burton-ish, and it's a wonderful world of Halloween where they have songs about how scared people, and all they do is understand scaring people, but they see it as a positive thing. So, but Jack is bored by his existence. He wants to do something else, and he's not sure if he can. So he finds a Christmas world with Santa Claus. He decides to take over Christmas, and he kidnaps Santa Claus. And hijinks ensue as he ruins Christmas by having a lot of Christmas gifts that are horror monsters and things like that. So it's a comedy, it's a musical, it's a romance, it's a fairy story, because it's only like 70 minutes long, and that's exactly the length it should be, because I mean, it's not a very deep, the characters aren't very deep, they're very archetypes, but that's what the film needs, to these archetypes go through the story. So it's a really well made fairy story, and I don't know anyone who doesn't love this film. I mean, it's really well put together. It just knows what it is, gets in, gets out, gets the job done. The stop motion animation is amazing in it, because there's a depth to the characters and the environment. And in 3D there's even more depth, because the shadows float everywhere, and all the little creatures just seem to pop into the world a lot more. And Santa, that I always thought it looked a bit off in 2D, really comes across well in 3D. And the whole thing looks much more nostalgic and much more of a fairy story in 3D, I find. I just think it's a warmer film in 3D. So it was being converted, but it's one of those conversions that work, because stop motion and the technology it was made with actually suited the 3D anyway, so it was one of those conversions that actually work. Because you can imagine wanting to make it 3D in the first place, but 3D wasn't in at the time. So it's a wonderfully well made film. I mean, if you want to scare the kids at Christmas, this is the perfect film to do it with, because it's scary, but it's not too scary. It's like fake kid scary. It's not going to harm anyone. It's just going to have a few little jumps, and it's funny. I mean, it's sort of like Gremlins in that way. It's a funny, scary Christmas film with a Halloween spirit. So that's A Nightmare Before Christmas. I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I do. The songs are great. The songs you'll be humming for days. So finally we have the panto movie of the Christmas special, Jack the Giant Slayer, which is based on Jack and the Beanstalk. This is easily the worst of the four films. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone who's heard of it, because it's a film that doesn't quite work, but it's not a total failure either, because in 3D you actually see the giants look great, the beanstalk looks great, the world looks great, you get to see what you'd always want to see in a Jack the Beanstalk film, which is a beanstalk that goes really high, and it's very hard to climb, and lots of perspective shots looking down and looking up. The giants are very intimidating, they can kill anyone as soon as possible. All of that looks great. But then there's a script, which has its problems. I mean, there's good bits in it, which is when they create a mythology for the Jack and the Beanstalk, which is monks created the beanstalk to find a way to heaven. It didn't work out because there was giants between heaven and the earth, so that didn't work out very well. And there's all these little myths about what the giants are, what the beanstalk is, and this crown that will make you become the king of the giants. Stuff like that, that's all really well made. I heard it was a Christopher McQuarrie rewrite that put a lot of stuff in. That really works because it's a nice sense of myth to it. Unfortunately, the human story is where it fails, because you have lots of these little adventure stories going on, and they're always fun. The villain, played by Stanley Tucci, is fun. And all that stuff works because it's a bit over the top. I mean, no one's been subtle in this film because it is based on a panto. It's a short panto. Not quite as over the top as a short panto, but it's still over the top. But they made a massive mistake because they made Jack like 18, and the story doesn't work with a guy who's a late age teenager. And especially doesn't work when you cast someone who looks like they're in the mid-20s, which is Nicholas Hoult, who does not give a very good performance. He's a good supporting player, but he's not a very good lead man because he just has no energy, and it's just like, doesn't really work, and he just talks as if he's bored for most of the film. Whenever he tries to do a romantic scene, it just doesn't work. He just looks too old. The character seems stupid because the character's motivation suits someone who's like an early teenager or who's very young and naive, but he's meant to be 18 when he actually looks a lot older than 18. The character just looks stupid, and you just get annoyed with him most of the movie, and you don't care what happens to him at all. You're basically looking at someone who's just stand-in for the special effects sequence. That's the only time he works, because in a drama he doesn't work, which is kind of the opposite problem Bryan Singer, the director, had with Superman Returns, where the character was written older and he cast someone younger. Now he wrote a character was written younger and he's cast older. It's like, Singer's kind of bad at that. He seems to cast outside of what the script needs sometimes, and that's a problem. It worked a lot better in Superman Returns actually, because they cast the right person even though he was a bit young. Here they cast someone who doesn't really work. He just is not a leading man. He's good in the supporting parts. He was great in Mad Max Fury Road, and he's been good in X-Men films, and those are supporting parts where he seems to have a lot more energy. And this one he just seems to be, doesn't seem to care that much. He just doesn't work. The leading lady's a lot better. She actually works. She's probably too old for the part, but she plays it right, and she just has the right naivety for the part. And all the actors do their job, but it's just because it's been miscast so badly to start with the leading man, the film just never can recover, because you don't have someone who has a sense of awe about the world. It's just someone who's bored with the world, and you don't care after that. So it's a film that doesn't quite work, but because of a good director, Bryan Singer, who is he's a very good mainstream director. I don't think he's very interesting for ideas, but he's good at creating world. He's good at keeping the plot moving. It makes enjoyable entertainments, and that's what this film should be. The cast the lead man right. So it's not so much. It's something you can show your kids or watch for fun Sunday afternoon entertainment, but it's nothing beyond that. It's this isn't really that interesting because they made some basic mistakes, and I've no idea why they get through the studio not noticing that major mistake, because your lead actor was so miscast. It's one of those weird ones, just like, what happened? Anyway, that's my show. I hope you enjoyed my Christmas special, and I'll be back next week with talking about what's been happening in the year of film, and I won't be lists or anything because I think that's boring, but I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy next week's, and I hope you enjoy Star Wars films. So I'm going to finish off with Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith.